a convenient place of retreat in neighboring Cameroon. Northern Cameroon shares many of the same ethnic groups, and the border is very porous.
In this region, you naturally cross the border on foot. People speak the same language, in particular Hausa. So it's very easy for them to find a terrain where they can conceal themselves and confuse those who are looking for them.
Residents near the border live in fear, caught between Boko Haram and military repression. The military is active in Cameroon, where Boko Haram's kidnapping of Westerners, a lucrative activity, is on the rise. The kidnappings began in 2013 with the abduction of the French Moulin Fournier family, freed 2 months later. This was followed by the kidnapping of a French Catholic priest, George Vandenbush. The group is currently holding other members of the religious community, as well as the 236 schoolgirls. Anger is growing in Nigeria over the government's helplessness in dealing with Boko Haram. People are demanding efficient action against the group, which has now also infiltrated Niger and Chad.
I left Chibok to...
Mauritanian opposition groups are calling for a boycott of June's presidential elections. The group cites lack of credible procedures leading to the conduct of the polls. The Mauritania Election Commission has denied accusation of planned voter rigging. We have details in this report.
A summit on terrorism in Paris focused on the Islamist sect Boko Haram, which last month kidnapped more than 200 girls from a school in Nigeria. Leaders from 5 African countries, Benin, Niger, Chad, Cameroon and Nigeria, met at Élysée with French, American and British counterparts. French President François Hollande also held a private meeting with Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan. A summit on Africa's role in the United Nations was held this week in Oyo in the Republic of Congo. Representatives from 10 African nations are addressing ways in which to increase the continent's influence in the UN, with the aim of gaining at least 2 permanent seats on the Security Council. They join the African Union Commission in its demand for reform, which would give developing nations a greater say in policy.
Africa today is not the Africa of 1945. We cannot continue to be absent from international diplomacy.
At least 10 people have been killed and 70 injured in a twin bomb attack in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. The first of the bombs exploded in a minibus and the second at the city's sprawling Gikomba market. No one has claimed responsibility for the bombings, although suspicion has fallen on the Somali Al-Shabaab, which has carried out similar attacks in the past.
Let me begin by... Terrorism is not... All of us must be on our alert as we continue to endeavor to battle with these criminals who continue to want to use terror to intimidate and to put fear into Kenyans.
1 year after the International Donors Conference on Mali, donors met to evaluate progress. According to Annick Girardin, the French deputy in charge of development, of the 3.3 billion euros pledged, 45% had been received. Aid was contingent on Mali stabilizing its political situation. But security remains fragile. Prime Minister Moussa Mara cancelled a visit to Kidal in the north following a skirmish between rebels and Malian troops.
Well, time now to take our second break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. And before we end this edition of the news, a recap of our top stories. Secretary General and Minister for Presidential Affairs and the Civil Service, Momodou Sabali, has met Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow as the two top officials discuss efforts aimed at deepening ties between Banjul and Moscow. Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan has joined all the world's leaders in Paris to discuss the Boko Haram problem in the region. And Mauritanian opposition groups have threatened to boycott June presidential polls, citing lack of transparency in the lead-up to the elections. Well, that was all in this edition of the news at 8. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again.